As you can see, I'm still unpacking in my new apartment, and I thought, what can I do for a video this week? And honestly, I don't really have a crazy amount to talk about. I did a bunch of previews at Summer Game Fest, and those are up on the internet, so I figured I'm just gonna kind of freestyle vibe check Summer Game Fest, which I thought was interesting to me because it kind of I just got back from there, and it was an interesting year, I think. I thought the live show, the Jeff's live show, was solid. There was nothing that really got me hyped out of my seat, but there's a bunch of cool things there that I think I'm now keeping an eye on, I'm more excited about. I think Xbox had a pretty strong showing in terms of the games that were represented. But the exclusivity change stuff has kind of defined the story of that show. The games that I saw there that I'm very excited about is kind of Gears of War E-Day, obviously. I love Gears. I'm excited to get back into that world. The one that really stuck with me from the Xbox showcase was Magicians, the Devil's Deal. That looks really cool. It kind of reminds me of Bioshock, but magic stuff. Fable looks cool, and then Castlevania. The new Castlevania looks so cool. I'm very, very excited to check that out. And obviously, I'm pretty sure that once I see more of Persona 6, I'll be all over that too. I played Onimusha and Stranger Than Heaven, two games that came away most thinking about from a gameplay perspective. They are very good hit button games. You know, you hit buttons and it's satisfying, and those two are the standout hit button games for me. I really like the combat system in Stranger Than Heaven. It's very involved. It's got an interesting punch, arms and legs mapped to different buttons, shoulder buttons, which I thought was cool. So yeah, SGF and Playdays are effectively the replacement for E3, and maybe it's because I'm feeling a bit old and nostalgic now, but I spent a lot of time thinking about the two kind of sets of events, and yeah, for SGF and Playdays, for the most part, serves the same kind of function. It does it really well. It feels a little more focused than E3. It feels better designed to make seeing games and covering games more efficient and effective. If you're press or even retailers, which there aren't much of these days, but it feels a little more controlled and less chaotic. But as a kind of experiential, once in a year event, it still feels like there's something kind of missing from it. Maybe it's unfair to see these events through the lens of an E3, but the enjoyment and the kind of unique format that it provided was kind of a product of its time and our general ability to access and disseminate info, as well as what ordinary gamers and retailers wanted out of a show like E3. But at the same time, I cannot help but keep coming back to the feeling that something is missing. And the longer I think about it, the more I kind of hone in on what I think that is, and I think it's not a good thing. I feel like this is a very disagreeable point to make, but no matter how much I think around it, I always kind of miss this element of it. So I kind of miss just a little bit of the toxicity. You know what I mean? Just a drop of a hint of toxicity in these kind of events. At a thing like E3, that toxicity manifests in the console war stuff and the competition that kind of mentality engendered. And to be clear, I think the console war stuff was pure loser shit top to bottom, and it's the people that took that stuff way too seriously were so lame. But at the same time, I kind of think that what SGF and Playdays is missing is a little bit of that kind of competition and a little bit of tug of war around it. And I don't want people to be toxic. There's no shortage of that in this space, I think. But I want is for companies to try and channel that part of their own and other people's fan bases to make that competition element a key point of the show again. I think the whole kumbaya shit was where all gamers love each other and all people that make games love each other, and let's hold hands and get everyone on stage and play nice with each other. I think it was really nice. Obviously, it's the smart thing to do, the right thing to do as human beings, but also kind of retrospectively I look at it and I'm it's turned out to be an attitude that, while definitely healthy, has kind of made the event like an SGF and the news cycle and the cultural impact around shows like SGF super boring. The announcement and new trailer stuff is now centralized in Keely's show, which makes a lot of sense and is a way better viewing experience, and year on year seems to get better and better. Given that like the landscape, where we are with the landscape of modern shows, it makes perfect sense that you would go to someone like Keeley, who has this kind of central catch-all show that has a lot of like eyeballs on it. But we kind of lost a lot by having platform holders and publishers kind of decentralize that, the real hot stuff, and they're way more careful about how they space stuff now in relation to each other. Like PlayStation State of Play happened, and then a couple of days before Jeff's show that happened, that was followed by the Xbox Showcase and the PC Gaming Show, and so they're all nicely spaced out, just far enough that they never really make eye contact with each other, you know what I mean? They're never close enough to give each other the metaphorical like finger from across the room to be like, ah, look what I did, you guys suck. It all feels like really polite, and I kind of want them to be less polite again. Like, I want them to be back to back. I want them to be stepping on each other's toes a bit. I want them like either on the same day or like consecutive days over like a 3-day block. That kind of proximity and the knowledge that you're either before or following a competing platform holder, publisher, developer. It made the whole like showcase experience way more exciting. It was kind of like watching a Royal Rumble, like where you know the clock is ticking and the next entrant is about to come out and start stunting on the previous entrant. Maybe one of them gets like embarrassed or something like that. And I think Summer Game Fest and Play Days isn't enough like wrestling. But I definitely believe that the need to impress people and give the chuds a clip to use against this one opposing platform enemies kind of gave us some of the most exciting moments in our medium's history. Now it's all like severely, heavily scripted to perfection, and it looks slick, and everyone's playing nice, like I said, and staying within their own lanes, and it all feels kind of sterile and corporate in a way that kind of really also reflects the worst parts of the medium as a whole. You know, you look at these gigantic companies who are just Pac-Man eating everything and becoming this one megacorp, and the kind of showcase experiences that we have are a very, very accurate reflection of that. It doesn't have that scrappy underground, like we just threw this shit together, check it out kind of vibe to it, which I don't think it can come back to, but I think there's parts of that you can reintroduce. I really don't like pre-recorded showcases. I think that's a major factor in where we are now, where I am now. I think people have kind of forgotten how much of gaming culture, both like social in the real world and online, was built on the back of like awkward live performances and weird moments in showcases and like super misjudged jokes or unexpected good and bad reactions to what you say or what you show, and how people react to them in the room and also online. The like really funny or weird stuff kind of rose to the top over the course of those E3 days, and it gave us the memes that were like super important to the experience year by year in the culture. Like, you think about it, like what's the last good meme slash funny moment that came out of one of these kinds of shows? I genuinely can't think of one. Maybe like the Keanu You're Beautiful one, which is like, it's the most lukewarm meme. It's a nice, fun meme, but it doesn't have that kind of like good meme quality, you know, it's kind of like, it's got a slight bit of making fun of someone in there. Especially when you compare it to stuff like, I'm gonna sound like such a boomer now, but like the Konami's like entire 2012 E3 press conference, where it was one just weird moment after the other, and just the concentration of meme impact and cultural kind of like knock-on effect that one press conference is unquantifiable almost. Hoop God was a much loved moment as well. Chad Warden, I know, cross and stupid and puerile and in a lot of ways, but still back then it was pretty funny. Like, you could look at him and be like, look at this absolute weirdo with this allegiance to a PlayStation that is driving him to do this wild performance shit. But you know, it's still funny, like bottom of an Avatar's shoe. There's so many of that. You just don't get that kind of stuff anymore. And again, I feel like a boomer being like, back in my day, everything was shambolic. And that was funny. You know, like, I don't know, sitting here and being like, remember giant enemy crab makes me look and sound like an old loser. And sometimes, yeah, I do feel that way, but I also feel like it is undeniable that events were way more fun back then. They gave us more than just the games and the announcement and the trailers. They gave us these moments that we could all use and add to like the language of video game culture. And I never thought I'd say this, but like maybe we kind of need to go back to that unpolished format, you know, that created the most pressure on each of these events and platform holders and people who are on stage, and created that looming risk of screwing something up or saying something wrong, and suddenly you're a clip on the internet that people are using as like shorthand for various other silly things. And we kind of may even need the fanboys back just a little bit. The modern day version of like gaming fans are so ass, man. Like they've got no creativity. I think that's what I'm missing. Like there's not a single good meme coming out of these people. It's just dudes being like, too many women, boobies not big enough, and getting upset if a character isn't like a slice of white Hovis bread. That never used to be the focus. It used to be like dunking on people or picking out like the moment that was like gonna carry forward as a part of the culture. Toxic gaming fans and you know, fanboys and fangirls and fan non-binaries or whatever you want to say, they never did it as like a grift, which is where we're at now with like the people who are most vocal in about kind of like speaking to the culture online. Like they're just doing really obvious grifts. Back in the day when you did that kind of wild clipping and making viral content, you did it for the love of the game, man, and I kind of missed that. So yeah, I mean, like I had a good time, but I every year I go, I feel it more and more. I'm like, it's missing something. It's too polished. And the same goes for Game Awards. I love the Game Awards. I think the Game Awards is one of my favorite events these days because it has that kind of like almost prestige to it, and there's an excitement around it because you know Jeff kept all the good shit for that show. But it also kind of feels very like just a bit too put together and a bit too classy, you know? People are showing up dressed nicely and shit. Like one of the worst things to happen was like people who showed up looking like schlubs getting shaved on the internet. Like, it's nice to dress well. It's nice to have people point out that you dress well, but I really miss the lads who would just show up in a t-shirt and just be like, yeah, man, I'm just here for games. I got nothing else to prove and I don't care. And I like some of those rough edges, but there's a few events. I mean, like there's a couple of events out there that are very rough edge, but I'm telling you, they're coming from the worst spaces in the industry. That was my thoughts on Summer Game Fest this year. Enjoyable show once again. A lot of really cool games to check out, indie and you know AA, AAA as well. So I think we've got an interesting few months ahead of us. 1 month in particular is just slammed with video game releases, big ones. So we'll see if we make it through that. But beyond that, there's like a really cool roadmap of games on the horizon. I think that I'm definitely excited to check out, and I need to go back and actually like rewatch some of the showcases to get a better look at some of the things that I wasn't paying super close attention to, because while I was watching it in the office, the TV decided that just repeatedly want to switch to Antiques Roadshow or whatever it's called, Storage Wars, something like that. And I also want to get prepped for Next Fest, which is coming soon. That has a bunch of cool games that I've been looking at and excited to check out demos of. So yeah, hopefully by next week I'll be more settled and I'll have a little more of a put together shooting space. Finally got like some things set up, got like some artwork hung up, but again, everywhere beyond where you can see in the frame of this camera is just a nightmare hellscape of things that are cluttered together and is driving me insane. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you can. Again, like I said, hopefully I'll have a little more put together thing next week where it's a little more thoughtful and not just a reaction of what I'm doing, but this is what I got right now. You know, I'll take it, I'll leave it. And you know what's cool? If you stuck around to the end, I got invited to and then accepted into the YouTube partner program, which was a nice surprise during Summer Game Fest, which I didn't look super hard into what that means, but based on what I know, it's a lot of monetization stuff. So maybe I'll start trying to introduce some of that stuff. I'd love to make more videos per week, but I just don't have it in me to shoot and edit all of those. So I'm actually chatting to a couple of people, one specific person who's interested in editing videos for me. And so I'm hoping like I can do these YouTube videos and then also like work with this person to potentially get to a point where I can have multiple more reactive stuff a week, and also kind of work in the background on bigger videos. I started like a few big videos and moved. I need to get back to them. But yeah, I'd love to be, and I'm supposed to come back to live streaming as well, which I'll use the donations from to fund more editing stuff. And yeah, hopefully, so if you're there and you're inclined to either, I don't know, go to my Twitch or here in YouTube, chuck some money, I promise you I won't be using it to fund a mansion. I'm just going to be using it to pay an editor. That was, if you caught that, that was my wife sneezing so loud that I carried across the apartment through this closed door and this kind of thick wall and into my ear holes. Gotta respect that. Gotta respect the pipes on that gal. Anyways, see you next time.